Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
For those of us who were raised in snow, at least there's a reason why we're here. I love snow in December. January, it could all melt and go away. But for those of us who experienced, grew up in it, or for you who have gone to it in the winter for holidays or family, isn't there something just so magical about it? I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and we had 5 months of snow. So it was a lot, and no matter how tired you are of it in March, that first snowfall in November, it's like magical. I had dreams for years afterwards, wonderful dreams. The same, but it was the same. I would look out the window and it would just start snowing. And then I'd go to sleep and I wake up and the whole world had changed. It was this magical white kingdom. And the thing about snow, right, is it quiets everything. So suddenly everything is muffled. It's not just the grass that's white, it's the streets where the cars are driving. People's voices get muffled, that they show how it all works, that it's like soundproofing. And when I came out here, that was one of the hardest things for me, because 5 months of snow is a lot. When I came out here, I didn't miss the snow, but I missed the quiet, and I kept waiting for the quiet season to hit. I'm like, oh, that doesn't hit here. It's always this noise. And the beauty of being in December, where it's also the darkest time of the year. And so you get all cozy. It's all of that's true, and it's warm. Snow is also soft. It's not hard. It's not a hurricane. It's not a flooding. It's just this beautiful white, fluffy snow. And you can say, well, you had snowball fights. But even those never lasted very long, because it's really hard you have to go. It's not like you can do snowball fights like, an elf where they just, it takes a long time. I never was any part of any snowball fight that lasted very long, because inevitably someone gets hit in the face and cries and goes home. So it really wasn't that huge. It was more sledding and skiing and just jumping in the snow and making angels. It's just so great. And when you're a kid, you're not trying to work, so it was play. It was winter break. It was just play in the snow. And so your imagination goes. I remember, so my house was right bordered a golf course. And of course, you can't walk on the golf course when there's no snow, but when there's snow, woohoo! It's like my backyard got really big. But I didn't know the golf courses are really long, and it's only snow, so I didn't have the markers, and there are times where I would get totally lost. Like I had no idea where I was in relation to my house. So I'd be out there for hours. And I remember I'd come home, and I'd see it finally. I'm like, oh, I got it. There's my house. I could see it far away in the lights, and that's so pretty. And so then I'd be in my little pretend game, I'm in Alaska, and I had to run away from home, and I've been traveling for weeks in the snow, and then there's this building with a light on, and I would create this whole story. It was so fun. Just get the imagination going. And to me, that's a lot of what this season is about, is imagination. That winter, when it gets dark, when we turn within, it sort of covers all the stuff that we see all the time, and invites us. The invitation is to go deeper within our own inner imagination, to create new things. It's a time to create. It's a time to plant seeds. And so this is an opportunity to allow our imaginations to play. I love, we have Christmas, we have Hanukkah. Was the birth of Jesus a real fact? Does it matter? We get to play with the story. Everyone plays, and people play with the story in different ways, but it's happening all over the place. Hanukkah, did the candles last 8 days? Or is it just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to play with the magic of life? We get to be in the magic, and we get to let go of, as Ernest Holmes talks about, the past, and to let our new life, new imaginings happen. You know what that feels like? Do you feel a little bit more, allow the imagination to go? Now, I will say this, it's a paradox because it's darker, it allows us to be quieter and be still, but at the same time, life gets amped up sometimes at work. You got to get all the paperwork done by the end of the year. You have all these parties to go to. You have all these families and gifts you have to get and food you have to make, and so it becomes also busier. So here's the important thing, is to carve out time this month for imagination, to let yourself be still in the dark. And I don't mean with your loved ones, I mean by yourself. Allow yourself to be in that still imaginative energy. I've said this every year, and so for those of you who've been coming years, you've heard this many years, but I need to repeat it for those of you who are new, because I think it's valuable, a valuable way of looking at this time in December. So most creation stories are about a place. So different cultures, when they would create, because everyone, all these tribes and indigenous cultures would have a story of how Earth came to be. And so many of them are connected to physical places. In the Old Testament, this creation story is a creation story of time. Because when that story was created, Jews were exiled to Babylon. So they didn't have a place. So they couldn't create a creation story that involved space, it involved time. I think that's brilliant. I love that. So many, when people go on spiritual pilgrimages, you go to sacred holy sites. That's what a sacred pilgrimage is. You can go to El Camino. That's exactly what Mecca is, making a pilgrimage to Mecca. You can go to Sedona. There's a lot of sacred tours we can go on. But for me, in addition to that, there's also sacred time. And for me, this time in December is a sacred time, especially in the Northern Hemisphere. It might be in July in Australia. I don't know, I've never lived in Australia. But in this Northern Hemisphere, when it gets so dark, and so many people have this Judeo-Christian Islamic background, and even there's Diwali that we just finished. Did I say that right, Diwali? I never know if it's a V or W, but anyway. It's to me, there's something so beautiful between us and the other side of the veil. And it's winter solstice, so all the indigenous cultures practice a ceremony around the shortest day of the year, which is December 21st, which is a Thursday this month. So it's a time to really say, oh, okay, all these things are happening, we have all these responsibilities externally, but to recognize there's something so sacred and holy about this specific time as no other time in the rest of the calendar year. So January is dark too, but there's a different vibe in January. There's something spectacular here, and it feels cultural in that we're all sort of experiencing it together. There's a power in that collective energy. Even if you live on your own, you can feel it. You can feel that energy. And so what I'm offering as we begin, so generally the way I look at it, and we've done it in the past, is from this time to the end of the year, we're on a pilgrimage together. That's why I thought of Jack's song last week about I walk in God. This is I'm walking in the winter. Like we're walking. We're walking in the pilgrimage of time and allowing the mystical essence and energy. And imagination is part of that. Just playing with this idea that this is a mystical time. When I had my experience of becoming one with Christ's love, that came from playing. That came from an imagination. Is that birth story true? Some people say yes, some people say no, some people say some of it. It doesn't matter. When I can tell you one thing, baby Jesus was not in my living room. And we didn't even have mangers. We didn't do all of that. So the entire thing was imagination. But it led to an experience of the divine because I was going through this portal that we call imagination. When we look at New Thought really talks a lot about the power of imagination to open ourselves up to new realities, to not allow ourselves to just fall into the habit patterns of what was this past year or your past 5 years or your lifetime. It's the imagination goes, I can go beyond. In our imagination, I can go way beyond what I've ever been before. way beyond. There's nothing that limits our imagination but us. But we have to take time to allow ourselves to imagine, to be free, to be open, to be receptive as we're playing and creating. So with imagination in this season, so we're going to do the 3 I's: imagination and intention. Intention is a really powerful force. We do it at the beginning of our service because we know it's a creative force. So when we have an intention, now it's not just, so when I was out in the snow and imagining I was like lost and now I found this great warm home, I didn't have a conscious intention other than I wanted to have fun. I was playing. It made life fun for me. I had a strong imagination when I was a kid. I played a lot by myself, and I had stories that ran for years. I can tell you all the characters in my stories. I loved it. It just animated my being. I wasn't worried about, is this true? Am I trying to enlighten anyone? I had no intention other than it was fun. So that's an intention. So when you're combining imagination with an intention, it starts to become really powerful. So if your intention is, I want to become more free, next year I feel imprisoned by all the stuff I have to do for work, just the day in and day out task list. I feel imprisoned by relationships. I feel imprisoned by my past. I want to feel freedom. You don't spend all the time thinking about your imprisonment. You spend the imagination time saying, what's it going to feel like to feel free? And you can start creating that energy. Now, I'm physical, so I always end up moving around. But creating that energy so you're feeling it. Freedom. I want to feel greater love. I want to feel greater beauty, because what's happening with the intention is that you're aligning yourself with principle. The principle, so the little baby Jesus one, when I'm imagining that, whether it's true or not, and by the way, the creative stories around Jesus' life are pretty extraordinary, and everyone, like, he didn't exist at all. Everything is literally true to everything in between. The creative imagination that people have used for the lost years is extraordinary, and they always have facts to back it up. But that's not the point. The point is the imagination with principle. So when I was imagining baby Jesus, that wasn't real, but what was real was the unconditional love through this story, through this imaginative story that was engaging my attention. I was actually accessing a spiritual truth of unconditional love. So when I was playing and pretending, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't accessing anything other than play. But when I started focusing on a spiritual, I didn't think about this as a kid, but when I was accessing a spiritual principle like love, then the imagination plus the principle starts activating this energy. Do we get this? So you're using your imagination, but you're also aligning it with spiritual principle. So unconditional love, just to be clear, doesn't come and doesn't go the way we teach it in our community, not just here. Spiritual principles will taught in so many places. That this unconditional love is beyond time and space. Unconditional means it has no condition. That it is love with no opposite. It is love that does not judge. It is not love that withholds itself. It is not love that is demanding. It is just pure isness. It's the isness of love that is always fully available in time and space when we turn our attention to it. That's a principle. That's what I mean by spiritual principle. It's universal. It's for everybody. It's not just for some people. The sun shines on the just and the unjust. It's everywhere present, in, through, and as all creation. So when we access a principle like unconditional love, we start accessing that energy because it's right now. It's right where you are. It's in the middle of your being. It's in the center of your heart. So love, freedom, joy, abundance, creativity, beauty, harmony, whatever that is that's exciting you. And so that it's good to get clear on what excites you this year, not what excited you 5 months ago or last year, but this year, what's engaging you? The power of intention. I was listening to, I love getting unusual examples, but this was a really fun example with Oprah Winfrey. She was talking to Gary Zukav, Seed of the Soul. And who's here read Seed of the Soul? Good many of you, love it. And she was talking that the chapter that really impacted her was the power of intention. And she said when she realized how powerful intention was, she changed her whole life based on it. And she said, I got very clear. She said, first of all, it changed me from being a people pleaser, because when I was people pleasing, I wanted people to see me in a certain way. And so I would make decisions based on that. When I got clear on what my intention was for myself and for my business, I changed all my businesses, she said. Now it wasn't, does it please people or not people? Is it in alignment with my intentions? And once I got really clear on what my intention was, and so she said she even took it to her producers, and she told her producers, do not give me any more ideas unless you tell me what your intention is behind your idea. So anyone who gave her an idea for a show, they had to also say, and the intention for this idea is da, 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 da. Because, and I don't know if Gary Zukav says this or Oprah says it, but it's very profound. Cause and effect are one. The intention is the cause, and the effect's is also there. It's ingrained. That's what we talk about inside the seed of the acorn is the oak tree. Inside that intention is its effect, is the effect that it will have. It sometimes doesn't show up always exactly how we plan, but it's there, the power of that intention. So we have imagination and we have intention. Okay, we're in winter months. By the way, here's the other thing about seed. So growing up with all the snow, a lot of times we think of spring as the time where we plant new seeds and plant new life, and you get a lot of new life ideas. And a lot of planting goes on in the fall and in the winter. Because when you really want to dig deep, and really have something grow up, so it's actually growing in springtime. So in the springtime, you get the pretty flowers. You have to dig in the winter. So I have this image of my dad, and I took a picture of him. So you have the 3 feet of snow in Ohio. So you just have to shovel that. And then you have the frozen ground. He dug into that, like a couple feet, to plant his bulbs. And I just have the picture of him just immersed in snow, planting these bulbs that in the spring started to grow and continue to flourish throughout the summer and into the fall. You plant your seeds now. So that's why we're doing this now. You do it, that's what this month is for. This month of winter is letting go of the past. The idea is you've harvested the things of this past year. You set your intentions in January or whenever, and you got some of the fruition. Now it's time to let all that go and say, okay, where am I now? Some of the stuff is just going to keep popping up. They're annuals. They'll just keep showing up. And you want them to show up. You get rid of the things you don't want. And you very intentionally plant the seeds that you really, really want. And this leads to the third I. We have imagination, we have intention, and we have intensity. Ernest Holmes talked about having the fire of conviction, that the real power of any prayer, the real power of this creative potential is conviction, and having this fire about it. What that means, that took me a while to make it my own, because I love the idea of fire of conviction, but I thought, And for me, that's something that I would just say, fire is something I really, really want. In layman's term, it's something that I don't kind of want. It's not a seed I'm just planting on the surface of the topsoil. It's something I'm willing to dig deep in. This seed I care about. I really care about, and I'm willing to shovel the snow aside. I'm willing to dig into the frozen dirt of the habit patterns, the frozen dirt, and just go, I'm willing to go deep because this matters to me deeply. And you know how you know? You're going to feel it in your body, you're going to feel it in your heart, and you're going to feel it in your mind. The intensity, sometimes I can really want something and it's just a concept, like that's a really cool idea. I really love that idea. But it doesn't last very long because it's just an idea. It's disassociated from anything. Or it's like a cool idea and it might last for a month or two, and then those are the New Year's resolutions that fizzle away. It seems like a really cool idea to make this commitment, but it's just, it's just an idea. But when you connect this thought, this concept, and you really start to connect with your feelings, feelings are key. That's where the imagination comes in, by the way, because the imagination can create the feelings, can start saying, oh, I really want to know what freedom feels like, and then to now, not waiting, now start cultivating in my body. Just like this is what I'm saying, take a little space. Just like, what would it feel like? What am I going to feel like? And it's like feel it, like free, like I have all these responsibilities, but they don't own me. I'm free. I can go to work every day and have all these expectations, but I'm free. I can have all these relationship desire, whatever it is, whatever the thing that's feeling bondage to me, and I can feel free and to start feeling the energy now, today, of freedom, right? Right, Sharon, Christine, and all our practitioners, this is Andrew, this is what we teach in this community. Is feel it. Don't just think it. Feel it as if it's already done. It's already complete. You feel it. And if you're feeling deeply, you're going to feel it in your body as well. I'm very kinesthetic, so I always I have to move around a little, and then I get still. Because I have to feel it to know that it's real. To know that I really, 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 really want this. Because if it's really deep, it's a really deep intention, and you have your imagination cultivating the feeling tone of what it would feel like. And we're talking about qualities, not specific things. So freedom, love, beauty, harmony, abundance, creativity. Throw out some other ones. Peace, joy. So it leaves a lot of space for creativity. But we're going straight to the God quality, the absolute quality. The infinite, timeless, spaceless quality. Vitality. We get the feeling tone, the imagination. We have the intention. We're clear that the imagination and the intention and the intensity are all working together. And now we have the perfect recipe for an absolutely creative new experience for the new year. That you can bring in ways that you can't even imagine all year long. So one of the things I do at the beginning, I'm always trying to think of themes for the year. And so the key is if what I've recognized for myself, it can't be just a cool idea. It's got to be something that for some reason has registered in my heart and in my soul. So last year, your spiritual journey, the greatest love story ever told. And I felt it, like that was really important. It's a long theme, but it felt like, because I know every one of us is on one, right? So I'm curious, I'm not going to even ask, but for those of you who've been coming, like, has that animated? Just note, because it was my theme, and whatever the theme is of the community might not be in alignment with your theme or not, but did that impact you at all, the greatest love story? What amazed me is last week when Jack came up and told his story, that wasn't planned, but he really was the fulfillment, he was a fulfillment of that seed that was planted way back in January. And it just effortlessly, it seemed magic. Didn't it seem like magic? It just showed up. Here he came and told his spiritual journey through music. In November, harvesting time. Couldn't have planned that one better. The seed was planted and it became fulfilled. Our next, by the way, our theme for 2024, just in case you're interested, is Mission Possible. Yeah, so it's Mission Possible as you're thinking about your intention, and the topic for January is You Are Chosen. So, yeah, so anyway. Gets me going, see? Well, as soon as I start going, that's what it's like for yourself. Like this, like it gets you going. Like you can't help, you're immediately focused. You immediately have this intense interest in what you're doing, in what you're speaking, because it's not what somebody else is saying, it's inside of you. So that's what we're doing. And I'm just going to give one more example and then we'll wrap it up. Because I've gotten into a conversation about this with some other people, and it's fun because I've shared this before here, and it doesn't really resonate with people. So I'm going to explain it one more time. You're going to get this, darn it. So one of my practices is I journal, and it looks different times, but generally how I started doing this was I love the divine, love God. And when as a kid, I didn't have a trouble with God, love God. And I never had an image of God. I used to just talk randomly up into the sky. But somewhere along the way, it was around in the 90s, I just really needed someone to talk to. I just wanted a person that I could pour my heart out to. So I very consciously said, I'm going to imagine. And so I put it on the other side of the table. I sat at Starbucks and put on the chair in front of me, there's Jesus. And I would spend time imagining, like, okay, I'm just pretending. First I had to explain myself to God. I know this isn't you, but I need a face. So I imagined Jesus, and I wasn't too worried about there's so many different versions. I don't care. It's just a being and always in light, full of unconditional love, because the one thing I knew was always unconditional love and infinite intelligence. And I knew I was one, so I was surrounded in this light. So we would be like in this bubble of just light and of love, and I felt so utterly safe. And that's how I did my journaling practice. It became a place where I could start pouring out my heart, because I knew that Jesus already knew everything about me, so I couldn't hide anything. There's no point of putting on a mask and pretending to be all cool and everything. And it became a place of extraordinary healing, genuine healing. So even though it started with imagination, but it was imagination based on principle. The principle was, what I'm imagining is unconditional love. I've just given it a face. And by the way, for some reason, by giving it a face, I was more real than when I'm talking to the air. There can be a vagueness in the air. When there's someone specifically sitting in front of you, it focuses me and makes it more real. So I actually got more specific and more real with a face than I do the infinite love intelligence of the universe, this vast oceanic presence that I can just sort of be vague around. So I had imagination, I had intention, which was always to heal and to feel that love, to hide nothing from this presence of love, because by not hiding it from this presence, I was not hiding it from myself, so it was that. And then I had intensity, because what I was writing about were things that I felt a lot emotionally. There were deep emotions. There were things that I was scared about or afraid about or even joyful about. I wrote a lot of things of gratitude as well, but what it was what I was ever authentically, it was a feeling, an emotion. So I had imagination, intention, and intensity, all three of those things. And that has become a daily part of my practice because I've seen its extraordinary power. Things have happened and things I've known that I shouldn't know, things that it opens me up to other realms, and I'm a skeptic of all of those things. So I never said, oh, I'm automatic writing. Because I would always, by the way, it was a conversation, so I would write back, Jesus writing me back. And sometimes Jesus led the conversation. I'd say, hey, what do you want me to know? And he'd lead the conversation. But I go, oh, well, it's automatic writing. That's Jesus writing as me. No, I didn't ever fool myself to think that, I'm not saying it, and yet things did happen. So I was like a both and. Like on the one hand, I'm totally on that I'm imagining and pretending, and on the other hand, amazing things start to happen, and amazing healings start to happen, and amazing revelations start to happen. I don't care if it's real or not, according to human fact. When you start hitting spiritual truth, you know that's a truth that shall set us free. And that's what's more real than any human earthly fact. And that's what I'm interested in. So as you're looking at your life this month, as we're going into this incredibly sacred and holy time, don't be afraid of your imagination. Do not be afraid of your imagination. Is this true? This is phony. This doesn't feel real. That means you're not in your imagination. That means you're in your human cognitive rational mind. We have a lot of that in our life. Let it go for a while. Give yourself the space to be childlike. Thank you, children. We love you. And play in your imagination. It's extraordinarily powerful when it's combined with spiritual principle. Spiritual principle, which is the intention and imagination and intensity. And with that, we are creating our new life. We're creating our own wonderful, magical, miraculous life. Yeah? Are we excited for this year? All right, so let's pray. I love you all so much. You know what? I just feel so connected with you. And it's just such a lovely feeling. So thank you for just bringing your full-on selves here, and we're in this together. Okay, so when we pray, it's coming through my mouth, but I want you to just be, the words are the surface. What's happening in the prayer is what's behind the words. So I invite you to just really connect with your heart. And often when other people pray, I don't always listen to the words. I just feel the vibration and just let it take me deeper within. So the words are less important than where the words are coming from. So just be conscious of where the words are coming from, because that's the same place that's inside of you right now. And so how grateful I am to truly and genuinely and deeply and profoundly know that there is only one power, only one presence. It is not my power and your power. It is not their power and our power. It is the one power, the one presence, the one love, the one peace that passes all human understanding. This one that is in, through, and as all creation, all people, all beings, all sentient life forms, all the galaxies upon galaxies upon galaxies, and beyond all time, space, and multi-dimensions of time and space. It is beyond what we could ever humanly imagine. It is beyond anything we could ever speak with words and language. And yet, it is right here in the midst of us, in the midst of all our words and our language and our concept and our human doingness, our human experiences. This spiritual presence is everything. The absolute and the relative, the infinite and the finite. And so what a wonderful and deep and abiding joy it is to know that this presence and this power of love, of light, of beauty, of harmony, of grace is active and animated as every one of us here and now. Every single one of us is conscious that we are the one power and the one presence. That the entire power of the infinite universe is in, through, and as us, working through our wonderful imaginations, creating itself into new worlds and new lives here and now, that there is infinite possibilities, and we are accessing that energy, not out there, but right now inside of us. It's extraordinary, this cosmic energy. It's who we are. Every atom and cell of our being radiates and pulsates this cosmic light, this cosmic being, this cosmic love. We are it now, and it is us. And as we turn and face our neighbors everywhere we go, all day long, all week long, we are seeing the face of God. We are seeing the face of love. We are seeing truth and light and joy. And what incredible gift that we get to dance and to play in this wonderful, wonderful creative universe. Thank you, divine infinite love intelligence. Wherever there is healing that is being needed, it is happening now. That creative intelligence knows how to heal itself. It knows how to reveal itself for its highest good on this plane of existence and on every plane of existence. There is no limit to how this healing can look. There is no limit. It is vast and oceanic, and we are all a part of this healing process even now. We are all part of this creative intelligence creating itself and expressing itself uniquely as each and every one of us. We are all standing and dancing and playing and giving ourselves to this extraordinary play of life, willing to allow our minds and our hearts and our bodies to find freedom of expression beyond what we've ever known before, to find a fulfillment in life and intimacy and creativity and connection as we've never known before. It is all right here, right now, available to us, and we are saying yes. So thank you for this infinite wisdom, this infinite grace, this infinite love that animates all of us as we move through this holy and sacred month of December, allowing ourselves to walk in this magical, mystical winter wonderland. In deep abiding peace and everlasting joy, we let this word be now, as we say together, and so it is.
I walk in God in all